We are back, everybody, for another episode of Freedom from Alcohol. My name is Chris. Got Lauren and Matt with me here as well. We
Hey.
we run a community of booze-free badasses. We help people break free from alcohol and really thrive in their life on the other side of it. And so, our method that we use with people is the same methods that we use to stop drinking. It's not about forcing ourselves to stay away from alcohol, even though we want it. It's about empowering ourselves to go, you know what? That's not serving me anymore. I know I'm meant for more. I'm going to choose a better life on the other side of alcohol. And that's how we help people with it. So we appreciate you listening. And today, what we want to talk about is, when did we know that it was time for us to break up with alcohol? Like, what was that threshold moment for us when we said, that's it? Can't do this anymore. I got to move on. And Matt, I'd love to start with you, man. What's your story with it?
Yeah, I know. I like the how we use it. We're very careful with our words here on the podcast and in the community, all that. So threshold moment, it could be referred to as, some people say rock bottom moment. It's different for everybody else, but it's basically that threshold, like you mentioned, is where there's really no turning back, And for me, I mean, I've had it a couple times as from previous episodes or just people that are first time listeners. I've had two different stints of alcohol free 3 years at a time, kind of 3 years intervals, started in 2012 to 2015 and then 2019 till now. So I've done it twice. So the first time was, it was a collection of a lot of things. Basically I've been drinking every day for my entire 20s into my 30s. And I was just getting so burnt out. Everything else seemed to be going well in my life. So at that time, I really didn't feel like I had a problem. And then my relationship had gone sideways. All these things that people were telling me was going to happen. I was like, I remember I went to a therapist and he was like, we got to work on your drinking. Like all these other problems will go away. I'm like, no. The drinking is not the. So I stopped going to that therapist.
Oh, you stopped going to? Okay. Wow.
Man, like I know what I'm doing.
None of that shit. We're not going to talk about that.
Problems, not my drinking. Like let's talk about what I want to talk about. I didn't want to hear it, And then things were catching up to me. The doctor's telling me you got to stop drinking. You're gonna, have some health issues. You're 30 years old. You've already had pancreatitis. So I'm like, as soon as he tells me that, I go and get a 6-pack on the way home. I'm fuck you, doctor. Excuse my language. So it finally, it caught up with me, and I was in like the darkest place. I was really underperforming at work. I couldn't hide it anymore. I was depressed. I don't generally get depressed, but it was a good couple of weeks where I was super depressed. And finally I was like, I can't do this anymore. So it was it was a collection of like the lifestyle very much caught up with me and got on top of me, relationship issues, just all the denial, the hiding, that all that shame had just accumulated enough where I was just like, I literally was having a hard time getting out of bed. And when I was not at work, I would just go back to bed. And it was like the darkest spot I'd ever been in. You know what I mean? So at that stage, and that was the hardest thing to do, just the asking for help component of it. So yeah, that was my threshold moment where I was just like, I literally, there's no further down I can really go aside from like leaving this world, if you get what I mean, in that sense of it. So I was checked out. So I needed help. I put my hand up. I asked a couple people, confided in them, hey, like, how's this going to go? Can you help me with this? And they did. And then the second time, the threshold moment was, it was interesting. So like it was basically my dad passed away, and I was like going out to his celebration of life, and I was coming off of like a really just a binge weekend basically, and realizing that I'm paying respects to my dad, who had died he was a lifetime drinker, like from the time he was 16, and that factored into why he passed away. And just realizing I'm about to go pay respects to him, and I'm like on the exact same road as him. And it just really hit me that day. I was halfway out, basically an 8-hour drive home, and I was about halfway out there, and just realized the same thing. I'm like, I can't, what am I doing? B, like, I can't keep doing this. And C, okay, what do I have to do to change things up? So those are my two threshold moments. I view them as, that first one was definitely what I say a rock bottom. That's as bleak as I've ever been in my life. And then the second one was just like a real spiritual kick in the ass that I got that day, that I asked for, and something really shifted inside me on that drive home. So yeah, those are my two threshold moments where I just realized, and you know what, after both those moments, crossing that threshold, so to speak, man, I was, very, very much into like what we talk about all the time here, all in. I was very much all in. I started identifying as a non-drinker. I started getting into the solutions-based mindset as opposed to myself in this sort of victim mentality, and everything changed for me.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. You talk about kind of had a spiritual moment, or you felt something shift within your body, because I had the same thing, and I knew it was different this time because it just something had changed inside of me, and I think I finally got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to start listening to these cues and clues that the universe is giving me, because I had been ignoring them for so long. And so it sounds like you had a little bit of that as well, right?
100%. I even asked for it. Like, I remember I was driving through this like Rocky Mountain town, and I took out my cell phone, and I was just feeling so dark about it at the time, and I was getting these feelings out, and I remember even just asking him, like, you know whoever's out there, I definitely felt like it was like, some guides, whether it's my dad could have been with me that day, or my dad's dad. Like, there's that whole lineage of alcoholism on that side of my family. And it was like I made a pact to myself that day, and to my family, and to my dad, like that pattern of alcoholism can and will stop with me that day. And pretty much as soon as I'd had that part of the conversation with myself, and with the the universe, so to speak, yeah, it was like a palpable energetic shift. Like, I felt different. There was like a warmth that sort of replaced that sort of darkness. That really dense, dark spot that I was in was very much embraced and changed within me. So yeah, that's what happened.
It's a freeing feeling, because it's like, okay, something's different in me now, and it's things starting to kind of get a little bit lighter is what I noticed too. But yeah, man, good stuff. How about you, Lauren? What was it for you that you said, I'm done?
Yeah. So I did a couple things. I think, rock bottom is, we always say that you don't have to hit rock bottom to ask for help or to make a change. And, rock bottom on, social media and in the news and in movies, the way it's portrayed is like that guy or that girl sitting on a park bench with a paper bag and just no home, no kids anymore, no job. And we definitely don't want to make it to that space before we decide to put our hand up. Now, if we make it there, cool, still put your hand up, right? But for me, I pretty successful in life. Things were going pretty well, so I was always telling myself that my drinking wasn't a problem because I wasn't missing work, and I wasn't, it wasn't affecting things. Although, like Matt said, it was really affecting my work. I was going to work hungover a lot of the times as a nurse practitioner. So I'm sure I wasn't giving it my best effort. I was just going in, checking off the boxes, and going home and drinking again. For me, what the few things that let me know that, okay, girl, it's time to stop. One event happened about a year before I quit drinking, actually, and I just showed my ass really well out in public that night, and it was pretty bad. Which is hugely embarrassing. I had a lot of people to apologize for, but I didn't quit drinking at that moment. I did lighten up for a while, but then I went right back in.
Just to clarify, you didn't literally show your ass though, right? It
No,
wasn't
just like,
okay. All right, all right.
when I say
Just
that,
want
I
to
mean,
clarify. No, I know.
yeah. Well, I do know some people. I know one person in particular that physically shows her ass every time she gets drunk,
Yeah,
but
it happens.
that's not me. Yeah. So mooning people, of all things, mooning people. But no, that not literally, but showing my ass, to me, that's how I say I acted like a fool, right? Like way over the top. But the two things that really helped me make the decision to quit drinking was, I was trying to grow a business at the time, and I was working 9 to 5 during the day, coming home, and then maybe working from like 6 to 8 or 7 to 10 even. But and I was on the phone with people, and I'm helping them get healthy. Oh my gosh. I'm helping them lose weight, coming off medications. And what I was doing is I was trying to sneak the alcohol in with it, weaving it in, so that, like, while I'm talking to these people, I can start to get my buzz going, but not overdo it to where anybody would know that I was drinking. And by the time I get off the phone, I have a nice buzz going, and then I can finish it off, go to bed, do the whole next day, right? So we know, like, the mental gymnastics of drinking, like the calculating of how much can I drink before I start showing my ass, or slurring my words or anything like that. And so what happened is, hey, I can have one beer while I'm on the phone, and I was drinking those like 14% beers, right? I can have one beer while I'm on the phone and nobody will know. So then what do? I start adding another beer. And there were a few times I had to cancel phone calls because I was starting to slur, or I was starting to become really conscious of the fact that, like, am I sounding drunk? Am I keeping up with the conversation? So I knew I couldn't have both. I couldn't have this business that did eventually grow into something huge, massive, awesome. I was able to leave my nurse practitioner job and do this full time. Um, but I knew I couldn't have it all because my drinking was competing with my work time. And you can't build something if you can't work on it, right? And then the other thing was I had started to go down that, well, at least I don't do this. And at least I don't do that. Like, we compare ourselves to tell ourselves that we're doing okay with our drinking. Like, if I'm comparing myself to Matt, well, it's like, well, at least I didn't stop at the liquor store when I said I wasn't gonna, whatever Matt did. Or at least I'm not drinking in the morning. Or at least I'm not missing work. Some of those things started happening though. At least I'm not hiding drinks. Well, that one happened. We started hiding drinks. We started drinking, a big slug out of the wine bottle while in the kitchen refilling the glass so that you were getting like a lot more, or going to the bar and getting 2 drinks. If I'm going to the bar for all 3 of us, I'm getting 3 drinks for the 3 of us, plus one more that I'm going to shoot real quick, a whole glass of wine. I can shoot a glass of wine right at the bar and then come back and it looks like I'm only having the one. I'd gotten sick and I decided to have a hot toddy one time. I don't even like liquor, okay? And all of a sudden I'm having these little whiskey, or whatever it was, little whiskey airline bottles, airport bottles, that I can hide because it can enhance my buzz, and yet it doesn't look like I'm drinking that much. What a freaking mess. So when I started realizing that I was doing all these things that I said I wouldn't do, that it's undeniable that I have a problem. Like, I cannot pretend that it's not a problem, that I've got whiskey bottles hiding, that I'm having to remember to carry out of the house when nobody's looking. Because my situation was that hubby did not partake the way I did, and he was judging me if I went over a certain amount. So here I am getting more in on the side without him knowing. I just knew that if I didn't stop, I was going to do something. Number one, I wasn't going to grow a business. And number two, I was going to do something I couldn't take back. And eventually I was going to hit that rock bottom, and I was going to lose my kids or my home or my relationship with my husband. And because this doesn't get better, right? Like, we don't go from hiding whiskey bottles to all of a sudden, I can just have one and I'm a social drinker suddenly that drinks, once every 2 months, right? So that's when I decided that I was going to do it. I'd been listening to Craig Beck for a while on YouTube and had kind of been wrapping my brain around all the lies that alcohol tells us. And I just one day was like, I'm done. And I was done, just done. If I had continued, now looking 3 years past, something bad would have happened in that time. There's no way it wouldn't have. I was gonna break something. Like, one of our clients said one time, I'm going to drive after a couple of drinks that I shouldn't have had with my kids in the car. And even if something happens, I put them at risk because I couldn't say no to the drink, and I was lying to myself saying that 2 or 3 drinks wasn't going to cause a problem when I go pick my boys up from daycare. I was going to do something that was going to be non-reversible and very, very bad. And that's just where this leads, right? So yeah, that's how it happened for me. Chris, what did you do?
Yeah. I mean, and just when you're talking about all that stuff there, I always tell people this too, like all the energy that it takes to be a regular drinker like that, it goes into like, oh, I got to buy an extra drink and slam it and hide stuff. It's like, if we could use that energy to put into things that are serving us, man, it's such a better use of it. But I did all the same shit, there was so many things for me that I was like, finally, I couldn't ignore my own bullshit anymore. And I got so sick of myself. It got up to the point where I was still working in radio, and literally, like, I would have a gig every Friday night hosted at a bar, free bar tab. They want you to drink. They want you to get on the microphone and be silly and stupid. There's all these 20 young people in their 20s partying, getting hammered. And I'm probably the drunkest one of them all, right? I'm just getting shit-faced. I got so drunk one night that I got into an Uber, and the guy kicked me out in the middle of downtown Minneapolis because he's like, I was too drunk for him. And so I had my phone was dead. Somebody had got me into that car. I don't even know how I got home that night. And I remember waking up the next morning in my house going, I don't know what happened last night, but just like, I'm a dad, dude. What am I doing to myself? And I kept doing things like that. But nobody was calling me out for it because my wife would drink, not as much as I did, but all my friends drink. And so I kind of was like, okay, I guess this is just what we do, but I couldn't ignore it any longer. And I got to this point where I was so disgusted with myself, and I got laid off from a job, and I got laid off from another job 9 months later. It didn't have anything to do with the alcohol, but it was finally like the universe saying, dude, what are you doing here? Your life this isn't what we signed up for. You are a smart person, you're a passionate person, you're a driven person, and you're pissing it all away with alcohol every night, sitting on the couch, watching TV, drinking until you pass out, waking up feeling like awful ass the next morning, and then going through this cycle. Like, is this how we want to keep doing it? So there was that. But then it was like I had this moment, like Matt was kind of talking about, where it's like the shift happened inside me. I was sitting on my couch one day, figuring out what am I going to do next in my life? Like, what am I going to do here? And this thought of like leaving my daughter, she was 4 at the time, without her dad, scared the shit out of me. So my parents both died when I was 19 years old. My dad was 54. My mom was 49, super young, you know, and they died 41 days apart from each other. It's one of the big reasons why I started drinking. You know, I gambled, I drank, I smoked, all because I was depressed, I was lost, I was on my own. And I started thinking like, well, what the hell am I doing here? I'm gonna do the exact same thing. I'm gonna leave my young daughter without her dad, and I know how freaking painful that is, all because I'm choosing to be selfish and put a poison into my body when I don't need to be doing that. And so it was really a culmination of all of these things. I got sick of my own shit. I knew I was meant for more. I knew I wanted to, you know, become that person that I used to be. And I knew I wanted to be there for my daughter and be present. And so all of it kind of just was like this storm of like, bam, that's it. We're done. And that shift happened. And it was like, I don't know, there was no looking back at that point. It's like, this is me now. No matter what it takes, I'm going to go through the shit. I'm going to go through the awfulness. I don't care. I'm not going back. And it's just one of those things where I think when you make that decision, you have to be steadfast. You have to never question it, because there's a reason that you are. If you're still listening to this podcast right now, you know something's wrong in your world with alcohol and that you need to change your relationship with it. Like, stop denying it. Get real clear about it. You know, I think a lot of us bury our heads in the sand for a while, either hoping that we'll get better eventually, or somebody else or something else will wake us up. It's not going to happen. We got to do it ourselves. And, you know, like Lauren was talking about too, we don't have to wait until that rock bottom moment hits. You don't even have to have a major freaking problem with alcohol to be done with it. If it's disrupting your life and you know that you can be better without it, just be done with it, because it's not serving you at all. It's costing you money. It's costing you health. It's costing you relationships, all this shit that it's taking from you. Like Matt was talking about, the darkness, the underperforming at work, all the depression, you know, it literally is depressing you and making your life less than you deserve. And, you know, I want you to wake up if you're hearing this and go, I hope this is your threshold moment. I mean, honestly, wherever you are right now, you're hearing this, you go, shit, that's it, man. I got to be done. Because until you decide that, you're going to be pussyfooting around with this thing, and you're not going to be all in. You're going to start, you're going to stop, you're going to go back and forth. And it's really important to have that moment with yourself. So there's one of my Chris rants.
Yeah, well, I think that, yeah, I love a good Chris rant though.
Yeah, it happened.
I think, you know, anybody that's hung this long in this particular episode, you've resonated with 4 or 5 things that have been said between these 3 stories, because they're all different. But I think the word that you said, Chris, that resonates with me really well is I was disgusted with myself. I was just disgusted with my behavior, and then the aftermath of it, and the depression, Matt, where you like wake up the next morning and you hate yourself, and life is really hard because you're not feeling good, but you're also like such low self-esteem. It's so dark. So yeah, I think the thing that makes us so good at what we do as life coaches and helping people change their relationship with alcohol is that we've freaking been in the trenches of this thing. Like, it had us by the balls, right? Like,
yeah. And like, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't look at my own eyes, because I'm like, that's not me. And I didn't trust myself. My self-worth was shit. You know, it just gets to the point where you got to go, I deserve better. And you do deserve better. So we'll wrap it up there, guys. But yeah, I hope something clicks with you in listening to this episode. Please join our free Facebook group. Again, it's by the same name as the podcast, Freedom from Alcohol. If you want to work with us, you can contact us. We have helped many people in all different areas of life, whether it's salespeople, nurses, you know, dentists, you name it, authors. We've worked with people from all different professions, help them change the relationship with alcohol and get their life back. So Appreciate you listening, guys. Leave feedback, leave 5-star reviews. If this resonates with you, share it with people who need it. And we will catch you next time on Freedom from Alcohol.
Thanks,
Awesome.
everybody.